Hey there, Detroit sports fanatics. I'm Taylor Phillips, and welcome to Taylor's Detroit Sports on Spreaker. You can also find this and all other episodes of Taylor's Detroit Sports on iHeartRadio. Straight and full Detroit and Michigan sports coverage 100% of the time. If you have any opinions on everything that's going on in the Detroit sports world, call in or send a text message live on the show at 231-429-3668. Also, you can add me on Facebook as Taylor Phillips, online at facebook.com/TaylorGatorPhillips14. Like my Facebook page, Taylor Phillips's Detroit Sports page. Join my Facebook group, Taylor Phillips's Detroit Sports Group. And follow me on Twitter at DT2Phillips with 2 L's.
And welcome to episode 156. And with me is Carlos Martinez. How you doing, Carlos?
I'm excellent. How are you, Taylor?
Good. Tonight we're going to talk about the Tigers and how they have fallen further down into third place of the American League Central Division standings, and more Lions news, including the signing of safety Taylor Mays, cornerback Quandre Diggs competing with brother Quentin Jammer, and the Eric Ebron narrative. Plus, we'll talk Red Wings refusing to trade for Dion Phaneuf, and the Pistons trading for Ersan Ilyasova. First off, Tigers aren't doing too well, but they won today 12-4. They only took 1 out of 3 from Cincinnati and had the fourth game out rained out. That makeup the makeup date of that postponed game will be sometime in August, and then they lose the first 2 in New York, but then rout the Yankees back. And let me see here. Right now, I'm going to MLB.com. And it looks like the Tigers are just 2 games back of a tie for first place in the AL Central. The Royals and Twins have a tie. Oh wait, I'm sorry. That was WC game. That's wild card games back. Sorry about that. The Tigers are 5.5 games back. The Twins are 3.5 back. The Royals lead the Central at 39-27. The Twins 37-22, and the Tigers are 35-34. The Indians is at 32-36, are 8 games back, and the White Sox are 30-38, 10 games back.
Yeah, again, we've been riding an up and down season with the Tigers. I will say that there's a silver lining in what we're seeing right now. It's really good to see Victor Martinez being able to show up. I am still concerned, again, we knew that Justin Verlander wasn't going to pop out of the box 100%, but I'm still a little concerned with the up and down. I'm wondering, my thought with Justin Verlander is, what is it that has to happen for him to become a complete pitcher? I would think he's far enough along in his career where he can actually maybe use more pitches to get batters out and not necessarily have to live on throwing in the 90s. Again, the first outing, I'm going to say, I was pleasantly surprised with. The second outing that he had, that I was not so impressed with. And I taped the game. I watched it a couple of times. Watched Verlander in particular. And the thing that I'm noticing with Verlander is that he's trying to press. It almost seems like Verlander's pressing. When Verlander gets uncomfortable, if you watch him in the past, it almost seemed like he had that football mentality where, it didn't matter to him. It's always about the next pitch or about the next pitch. But it almost seems like you'll see him come out in the game and he'll get comfortable, and then he'll have that one inning where the wheels kind of come off, and then he begins to digress. And as we've spoken before about Ausmus and being more creative with the lineups and being more creative with the baseball team, we're seeing attempts at that. But again, it's falling short with Ausmus. But man, oh man, it's like, as I wrote to you earlier, we were talking before we came on the show.
Yep.
The Tigers, you don't know one day from another which Tigers team you're going to get. The one that we saw today should be in first place. The one that we saw 2 games ago may not even make it into the playoffs.
Right.
So it comes down to consistency for Ausmus. If he can somehow find a way to give us a little more consistency, these losing the series, the way we're losing them is a little bit maddening, because again, it's, the bats go cold, and then the pitching holds up, and then the pitching falls apart, and the bats get hot. Today was the day that we got to see the complete program. I think that is who the what we saw today is what the Detroit Tigers can be. Now, whether or not they become that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I said yep. Go ahead.
It is going to take some consistency from Ausmus. It's going to take some consistency from the pitching staff for them to get where they need to be. Now, again, there's still the talk about the deadline. They're still talking about that young pitcher. I'm really impressed with Anibal Sanchez. He's starting to come around. Again, that's where it becomes a little hard to paint a picture, or where the picture becomes cloudy for a lot of us Tiger fans, is that we don't really have any prospects, any cute prospects that we can throw out there. So anything that we trade for, I think you're going to have to give something up of value. And it's almost like a Jenga puzzle. I'm so afraid that they're going to pull the wrong piece out and the whole thing's going to come tumbling down, especially when your base is, Justin Verlander and Cabrera. Now, Cabrera, what can we say about Cabrera? I don't want to make it sound like, this is a complaint about the Tigers, podcast or anything like that. Cabrera, you got to tip your cap to that guy. He's just a freak.
Yep, he is a freak.
He's just a freak. And it'll be a shame if it's all for naught. I mean, again, I'm going to give kudos to Cabrera. He's doing all he can. I wish he was probably more of a, I guess if I had one little thing to complain about Cabrera, I wish he was more of a vocal leader. I wish he was more of a, and I'm going to preface it also with, Cabrera's going to have to show up and be our panda. He's going to, again, it's beautiful. Triple crowns. We've seen him hit, like no other baseball player in the major leagues today. But I'm going to need him, if we make it to the playoffs, for us to get the payoff, I'm going to need him to be the guy that you can't walk. He's going to hit you whether you try to walk him or not. Even if that means he's got to run out and swing at the outside pitch. I mean, the guy's got to deliver, and he's on pace too. So, no complaints about that. But yeah, the Tigers have been up and down this year. They've been totally unpredictable.
Yeah, that's what makes them that's what makes them less consistent this year. Even a bit worse than last year, but still comparable to the seasons they had with Jim Leland before he stepped down as manager. He took the Tigers to 4 ALCS series and 2 World Series appearances, and it's still no World Series rings. That's the only goal, is to win the World Series, and they still haven't done, as we know, they still haven't done that. Still haven't won a World Series since 1984, and right now, the Tigers are, as of last year and right now, aren't coming close. Because last year they got swept in the ALDS, and this year they just might not make the playoffs unless they like convert their ship to Firebird mode or something like that.
Good one.
I got that from G-Force.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree 100%. I agree 100%. And I'll tell you something else. As fans, we're spoiled. As fans, really, I'm going to say this. Detroit is not a major market, okay? And Illich, in his quest for a World Series and his chase for a World Series, is spending like we're a major market. We should be, and that's just it. When you are losing to a team like Cincinnati, and you have $100 million payroll, $100 million plus payroll.
That's embarrassing.
That's embarrassing. Exactly. There's no other way to put it. And I'll tell you what. I think, I'm not. And don't get me wrong. I'm not pitchfork guy. I'm not, boycott guy. I'm not, let's slam on the Tigers or whatnot. But I almost get the sense when I read the writers in Detroit, when I hear the narrative that's being put out there, that
or losing to the Cubs 12-3, according to said Brian Eimers. Or losing to the Cubs 12-3, he said. Yeah, that's another example. The Cubs are in 3rd place, and the Tigers took the first of that 2-game series, but then they got rocked 12-3. That's another embarrassing moment.
Yeah, and you've got $100 million payroll, and you're walking around spending $100 million on a baseball team.
And you're 1 game over the 500 mark. And are you kidding me? Like over $100 million in your payroll, and you're just not winning enough games. Not nearly.
You're an average baseball team. That's really what you are. At the end of the day, if you were a Martian and came down and you had no allegiances to the Tigers, and you just looked at the facts for what they are, the Detroit Tigers are an average baseball team. And I don't think enough people are putting enough pressure on everyone. Again, it seems like the narrative is, well, we know it's this problem and we know it's that problem, but we're hoping that it gets better. It seems like it's a strategy of hope, and more so, the real concern is that Dombrowski doesn't seem to be concerned. I mean, have you heard anything that Dombrowski's been saying that leads you to believe that Ausmus is on the hot seat a little bit? I don't know. I think pressure should be coming from somewhere, and I don't feel it for the Detroit Tigers. I think and I'll tell you, it's almost like that undisciplined child. They're giving them a pass, and I don't necessarily think that's the right thing to do for the Tigers because the window's closing. The window is closing.
Yeah, it's going to keep closing until they find out, until Dombrowski finally finds out. It's going to be like another month or two before Dombrowski is wondering, oh my goodness, what have I done? What has Brad Ausmus done? And
done with my $1 million payroll.
Yeah. And
exactly.
Some of it's going to go down the drain.
And it can't happen.
No.
It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. I'll tell you, I think if you see a situation like that, there's pressure on Ausmus to perform. Because again, if you listen to his press conferences, it's almost like Ausmus has no answers. It's almost like Ausmus has no answers when you're, at least with the skip you got some. At least when you saw one from Leland, and that's who I consider the skip, by the way. I call him the skip. When you would watch the skip do a press conference, the skip would tell you exactly what was going on in the clubhouse. When I listened and he'd even tell you, listen, my problem is the bullpen, my problem is closing. My problem is I don't have a closer, and my problem is I don't have a strong enough bullpen. And we understood his problems. And he would identify them, and he would try to rectify those situations. And he did he did a good enough job with what he had, and that he got us to the World Series. So by any stretch of the imagination, do I want to discount that accomplishment? Believe me, I would rather go to World Series and lose them than to have a non-competitive baseball team and have my season over by the time August starts. So, I don't want to sound like that kind of complaining fan. Again, I'm not a pitchfork guy or anything like that, but at the same time, I'm well aware, and I hope the rest of the Detroit Tigers fans are, that the window is closing. We, for all intents and purposes, if Mr. Illich passes away and the team gets sold, you will never see a corporate entity own a sports team and spend $100 million in the market the size of the Detroit Tigers. We have been spoiled. We have an owner who is actually a fan, and I think he's a fan first, and an owner second, because again, it makes no financial sense for him to spend $100 million on a baseball team to have it be an average baseball team. But that's in essence what we've seen the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's like becoming old, like an ancient dinosaur fossil. It's like wearing off, and all the continuity is slowly but surely fading away from this organization, and all of the heart is slowly but surely fading away from from the ball club, and that's just what can't happen with a team with that much money.
So let me ask you this, Taylor. If you were Dombrowski, how would you handle? If you were Dombrowski right now, you're in his office today. You have to start Monday. You have to come out Monday and move the Detroit Tigers in a direction. Where would you move? What would you do if you were in Dombrowski's shoes?
Well, the Tigers have. Well, as I look at the schedule, they don't have Monday off. They're in Progressive Field against the Cleveland Indians Monday and Tuesday at 7:10 and Wednesday at 12:10. And if I were Dombrowski right now, like straight up, I'm thinking, man, I don't have enough time to make any moves. I would wait till like next Monday to take a day off when my team has off after that 4-game series. It's Thursday through Sunday against the White Sox, and then before the Pirates series at Comerica Park, I would have to make some tough decisions. What? I would have to say send Nick Castellanos down to Toledo. His OPS just keeps on lowering right now. Castellanos had a day off today. Andrew Romine produced quite a bit more than Nick Castellanos. Some would say that Nick Castellanos has been in a slump, but now it's worse than that. Brian Eimers said have Romine start. I agree. I would name Romine the starting third baseman and have Josh Wilson back him up and send Nick Castellanos down to Toledo if I were the general manager Dave Dombrowski. I would the same way. Yeah, Castellanos has had the last 2 days off. Thanks, Brian.
I agree. And I'll tell you something. Here's
same
my
way.
take on Castellanos.
Same way they sent down Shane Green. Shane Green is. I got an update from Jeff Moss of the Detroit Sports Rag that Shane Green's whip was 2. Let me find that status update here. Shane Green's got an ERA of 9 in the IL. He threw 4 innings tonight for Toledo, gave up 4 runs, 8 hits, and 8 walks. And that is painful. In the minor leagues, Shane Green, oh, man,
Not good.
terrible. Man, oh man, oh man.
Not good. And I'm with you on Castellanos. I tell you, I get the feeling with Castellanos is that
Castellanos.
He's become comfortable.
Castellanos.
I think a lot of these younger guys, such as Green, Castellano, and Green,
Castellanos.
have become complacent. They've become comfortable.
Yep.
Yeah, Castellanos. Yep.
Brian Eimers almost asked, did we make the wrong decision? Brian Eimers asked, did we make the wrong decision sending down Tyler Collins? ERA of what? That's just wrong. 9? Yeah, for Shane Green. Yeah, but the sending down of Tyler Collins, what do you think? But that's just because they reactivated Victor Martinez from the 15-day disabled list.
You know, hindsight, yes, we may have made a mistake. But I'll tell you what, Green was supposed to be the up-and-comer. Green was the guy that's being paid the money. Again, a lot of these decisions are made on money. A lot of these decisions, money is a factor. So when you got some money invested in a guy, and you see a guy as part of your future, you give him a little bit longer leash. But again, if you're in a win-now situation, that's where it all goes back to Osmus and him being the guy that is steering the ship and has his fingers on the pulse of the ball club, and to know who's going to help this guy win. Because at the end of the day, you know, any one of these jobs in any professional sports is a performance-based job. Your job is to win. Your job is to win. You know, but any guy...
Just win, baby. Just win, baby. Continue.
Yeah, any guy that's working in a factory, any guy that's working at any kind of a job, if the boss goes out and buys you $1 million machine and you're not producing the amount of pieces or work or jobs or whatever it is that when he's giving you $100 million machine to do it, it will reflect back on you. And you can say, well, you know, the guy at the end of the line wasn't quite up to snuff, or the guy in the back of the line wasn't quite up to snuff, or the janitor didn't clean up right, or whatever your excuse might be. But at the end of the day, you were responsible for all those things those guys did. And Osmus, again, it's so inconsistent. I don't know if it's that he stands up there and gives him a Gipper speech. I don't know if like on a day like today, I guess, again, every time that we have these podcasts, have you noticed that the Tigers come out and they just do great? Now we don't have the podcast and they stink. And then the day we do the podcast, and the narrative should be that the Tigers are stinky, they come out and you just know they have it in them, especially with those bats. And again, when you're 5 games out, you're going into the All-Star break. You still have a chance to make the moves, but at the end of the day, it's not acceptable for me to say that you spent $100 million. You have what you have on the Detroit Tigers, and you're 5 games back. Yes, the division is better. I will give you that. Everybody says that, well, you know, it's a different team, and every year it's a different team. Well, for the most part, it is pretty much the same team, you know.
We are 5.5 games back, like I mentioned before.
Yep, 5.5 games back. So it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And even though you say that, even though there are that narrative is out there that the division is better, that the division is stronger, yes, it is stronger. But when you're outpacing your division by more than $60 to $70 million, and that goes across the board, $60 or $70 million, you should be in first place very handily. This is not a mirage. This is not anything that the Tigers haven't accomplished. Our expectations are high, and they're not being met, and that's the bottom line with the Tigers. And I'm with you. If I would do exactly as you said. If I were Dombrowski, when you get that day off, I would Castellanos.
Yeah, I couldn't hear that. The sound was kind of buffering here. Can you say that again? That last part?
Yeah, I would do it. I would do exactly as you said. If I were in Dombrowski's place, I would sit Castellanos down. I would definitely begin to seriously start putting out the trade rumors. I would put trade rumors out on a couple of guys, in fact, to see if I can't, one, light a fire under them, to see if I can get them to produce, but also see if if there's any interest in moving some of these untouchables out of there that are not producing.
So the Tigers, like as mentioned before, are heading to Cleveland and taking on the Cleveland Indians at Progressive Field. The Indians are 32-36, like I mentioned before, 8 games back. It's a tight division. Tigers in 3rd place, Indians in 4th place. What should we expect in this upcoming series?
What's our first pitching matchup?
I just closed the tab here. Going back to Tigers.com and looking at the schedule here. Now I have to go to the home page.
That's a 3-game stand, right? That's a 3-game series?
Kyle Ryan versus Trevor Bauer at tomorrow at 7:10. David Price against Danny Salazar. And then Justin Verlander versus Carlos Carrasco.
If the Tigers don't take 2 out of 3, and that very conservative, that should be a very conservative prediction. If the Tigers don't take 2 out of 3, it's a disappointment. It's a fail.
Yep. As resilient as the Indians usually are at Progressive Field on their own home diamond, the Tigers have mostly owned the Indians. And hopefully they could keep that up. And they took all the first 6 games from the... they took the first 3 games at Progressive Field. They took the next 2 out of 3 from the Indians at Comerica Park. So they've won 5 out of 6. And the Tigers and the Tigers look to continue their dominance against the Cleveland Indians, while the Indians are just trying desperately to get some revenge.
And if Osmus is a smart man, none will be gotten. Again, when you have Price and you have Verlander on the mound coming up, this should be a slam dunk 2 out of 3. For it to be a promising series, we should sweep them. As you mentioned, the Tigers have always feasted on the Indians. That's what needs to happen for the Tigers moving forward. Anything outside of that is a fail.
That's true. Because then otherwise the Tigers would fall even further down the AL Central standings, and then all of a sudden even the Indians would take over for 3rd place, and the Tigers would fall to 4th place. Tigers are returning to Comerica Park and taking on the last place Chicago White Sox in a 4-game series. Thursday's game at 1:08, Friday's game at 7:08, Saturday's game at 4:08, and Sunday's game at 1:08. All 4 games are televised on Fox Sports Detroit. And then they have Monday the 29th off before they welcome the Pittsburgh Pirates into town. They took 2 out of 3 in mid-April after suffering their first loss of the regular season. Tuesday, July 31st at 7. Tuesday, June 31st at 7:08. Wednesday, July 1st at 7:08, and then Thursday at 1:08 on on July 2nd. Then they welcomed the Toronto Blue Jays into town Friday at 7:08 and Saturday and Sunday both at 1:08. All those 6 games are on Fox Sports Detroit. The Pirates are in second place in the NL Central at 6 games back behind the St. Louis Cardinals at 39 and 30 are the Pirates. Cardinals are 45 and 24. The Toronto Blue Jays in 4th place, yet 3 games over the 500 mark, just 1 game back of first place in the American League East Division at 37 and 34. The Orioles are 36 and 33, also tied with the Blue Jays. The Yankees are 38 and 31 with a plus 1.0. Wait a second. The Blue Jays are 3. The Blue Jays and Orioles are 3 games back, both of them. The Yankees are 1 game back, and the Rays lead the AL East at 40 and 31. The Red Sox are 31 and 40, 9 games back. Not too terrible, but
it's almost white flag time. It's almost white flag time for the Red Sox. Hey, speaking of that, we haven't had a chance to maybe talk about what were your thoughts on the Cardinal situation and the hacking.
Yeah, the hacking of the Royals All-Star votes. Yeah, I almost forgot to mention that there were 8 Kansas City Royals players already in the All-Star game, already leading in positions for the All-Star game that MLB actually found it out, and they thought, oh my goodness, that seems wrong, doesn't it? And that seems unfair. And then they found out the real problem. It was the hacking that caused all this, and MLB decided to cancel most of their votes, especially for the Kansas City Royals players. At least 5 out of 8. That's what somebody predicted. And Brian Einers commented, "Yeah, Omar Infante should never ever have been an option. LOL."
Little Omar. Listen, I think it's convenient that it came up to the whole. They're claiming hacking now on the Royals. I think, from my perspective, I think that you have a very enthusiastic fan base in Kansas City right now. Kansas City, for the longest time, has been a downtrodden franchise. Last year, they made it over the hump. They've joined the party. They are one of the big boys now. And you're seeing the fans come out and do something that they are empowered to do. In other words, when someone gives you an opportunity to affect, as Major League Baseball has, the voting on the All-Star game. And this happened, I guess, in 1957 also. So it's not something new under the sun. Baseball has dealt with this. In fact, when the last time that baseball dealt with this, they changed the rules. They did quite a bit similar to what they're doing now, where they didn't allow all of the players to enter into the All-Star game under one team as they have. but I think this sends a wrong message to its fans. And to be quite honest with you, baseball, when baseball made its resurgence with the guys on steroids hitting a lot of home runs and bringing baseball to the forefront, it is my opinion that baseball is kind of falling back a bit. And I think this is a wrong move on baseball's part to change what's been voted on. I think it's convenient to say that it was a hack, and that's why you saw the voting end up the way it ended up. I think it's a very enthusiastic fan base in Kansas that did what they did, and obviously, as a lot of intelligent people have mentioned before, I mean, what's wrong with the novel idea of taking the best record and allowing that particular team to have home field advantage in the playoffs? That seems to be the fairest way to do it. But baseball has other ideas, obviously. They've created a situation where they've empowered the fans to vote in their players into an all-star game. Now, if they bring in all 8 or 9 or however many Royals they manage to vote in, and the American League happens to falter, it's going to be on the Kansas City Royals fans and Major League Baseball. But for them to change the rules like they have changed them and then blame it on a hack, come up with the theory that it was a hack that put them in this situation, instead of just admitting, hey, listen, we kind of made a mistake with the way this is. We do want to make, and I understand completely where Major League Baseball is coming from, because they want to make.
I think I lost you there.
The game meeting as opposed to competitive.
I'm still losing.
I understand the mind. How about now?
Go ahead. Try it.
Okay. I understand the mindset of Major League Baseball wants the All-Star game to be relevant. They want it to count in their schedule. They want it to be must-see viewing. In other words, there needs to be something at stake in the All-Star game. But the cost of doing business with the way they have it set up has to be paid for. And by creating a story that somehow it got hacked and the Kansas City Royals aren't going to be able to put all the guys into the All-Star game that were voted in, is a misstep, I believe, by Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball empowered its fans to vote. Now, when you empower somebody to do something and then you say, oh, that wasn't the result that I was hoping for, I'm going to change it, all that does for the fan is show him that his empowerment was illusionary. It was never real. They don't really care what I think. That's the only way I see it going for Major League Baseball in this situation. Now, the hacking that I was mentioning, or the hacking that I was bringing up, was the Cardinals hacked the Astros. They got into the computer system, broke in, and took their database. They got the FBI involved. The FBI is now involved in investigating one baseball team breaking into another baseball team's database. Now, some people will say, well, that's a lot like stealing signs. That's a lot like foreign objects. And I don't agree with that one iota. That is lazy. Anyone that would hack into another baseball team to steal any kind of a database that they have on their players is being lazy. Part of the fun in playing any sport is to create a strategy a philosophy and implement that strategy and philosophy. Now, copying, I understand, the greatest form of flattery is impersonation. And I think that people do impersonate. When Moneyball came around, people are now trying. In fact, the Kansas City Royals are a perfect example of that. The Kansas City Royals are Moneyball. They homegrown talent, fair-priced free agents. They have produced a very good product in Major League Baseball. But when you're a franchise as prestigious as the Cardinals, you should not be hacking into anyone's. I don't care. I know the manager used to work for you. I know you have ties. He may have left with some things that you're curious about. But I think it's a huge detriment. I think there are two things that have two black eyes that Major League Baseball has occurred for Major League Baseball in just this past month. One is the hacking by the Cardinals, and two, the supposed hacking with the All-Star votes. Again, the Major League Baseball has made their bed. I think the fans would appreciate it for them to say, hey, listen, we kind of made a mistake. We think it doesn't create a fair balance by allowing the fan vote to weigh so heavily on the outcome of the All-Star game, and we're going to take measures next year to change it. As far as the ladder goes, the FBI investigation is still going on, but I think if this becomes, and it has been said that this wasn't just a couple of interns or, a couple of the younger guys just having fun on a Saturday night, with passwords and whatnot. This was an ongoing thing. They spent a lot of time in the database retrieving information that was not theirs, and some very harsh penalties, not just on the Major League Baseball side, are coming down, but they're criminal. There may be criminal repercussions that are going to come of the hacking of one baseball team to another baseball team's database.
The Cardinals the St. Louis Cardinals might get into a lot of trouble for hacking the Astros player database, and very, very good research, Los. The Cardinals are the Cardinals might face very harsh penalties, and that's just tragic that the Astros are in first place in the AL West, and the Cardinals are in first place in the NL Central with a 45-24 record. The Astros are 41-30, a half game ahead of the Texas Rangers, 37-33. Oh wait, that's 3.5 games back. I keep reading the wild card games back accidentally, but 3.5 games back are the Texas Rangers behind the Houston Astros. 5.5 games back are the Los Angeles Angels in third place at 35-35, the 500 mark. The Seattle Mariners are falling a bit, 32-38, 8.5 back, and finally the Oakland Athletics, 31-41, 10.5 back in the AL West. And yeah, the Athletics are just struggling a bit, but the Houston Astros, as far as the hacking situation with the St. Louis Cardinals is concerned, deserve better. The Astros deserve better, and the Cardinals are probably getting away with hacking and. While they are playing well, does it have to? Some fans may wonder Does the hacking situation have to do with their record thus far this year?
No. Again, I don't think so. I don't think that Deflategate is the reason why the Patriots won the Super Bowl. I don't believe that it was Spygate that won the Patriots the Super Bowl at that time. I don't think that when these clubs that are very good clubs do these types of things, I don't think it's a matter of those are the reasons why they're in the positions they're in. I sometimes wonder if it's just an arrogance to a club when a club reaches that kind of height or position in the league that they're in, where they almost become arrogant, where it doesn't matter what we do, where they're too busy looking at all of the good things that we've done to worry about what we might be doing here, and it always seems to catch up to them. I mean, obviously, that's not the correct answer to that question, because every time we turn around, we find out that somebody else is cheating in a certain way. And again, just speaking on Major League Baseball's part, it's another black eye for Major League Baseball. The sport is just coming back to becoming popular and whatnot. So when you get these kind of stories that come out, I don't think they necessarily hit you as a ton of bricks at the beginning, but I think that any time you mess with the credibility of a sport, it only knows one way to go, and that's down. In our country, in the United States of America, baseball was a pastime. Baseball was the sport. At one time, boxing was the sport in America. And the minute that credibility issues creeped in to either game, and that's the White Shoes Johnson situation in the 30s and in the 40s. It's the Don Kings of the world that entered boxing. The minute that the fan even begins to question the credibility of the sport, it only knows one way and down. Again, it's a lot like that old story of Rome. The empire's burning and the emperor's naked, and no one's telling him he is. You know what I mean? It's a situation where they don't want to necessarily admit it. I think baseball needs to get out in front of this and sanction the Cardinals heavily for what they're doing. Again, at the end of the day, this is a game. Baseball is a game, right? Baseball is a game of strategy. Baseball is a game of lineups. Baseball is a game of philosophy. And what you do by breaking into someone else's database, hacking into somebody else's database, you are saying that you don't have enough, at least to me, you're saying I don't have enough confidence in what I've got going on in my clubhouse that it made me go and break into your computer database so that I can figure out what it is that you're doing. And for the sport of baseball, it's just not good.
No, it's not. We are just about an hour in on Taylor's Detroit Sports episode 156. I am Taylor Phillips on Spreaker, along with Carlos Martinez, my co-host, and Brian Eimers, our commenter for the last two episodes. Also, you can also find my show, Taylor's Detroit Sports, on iHeartRadio. You can add me as a friend, Taylor Phillips, on Facebook. Like my Facebook page, Taylor Phillips' Detroit Sports page. Join my Facebook group, Taylor Phillips' Detroit Sports Group. Follow me on Twitter at DT2Phillips. and follow me on, add me on Google Plus as Taylor Phillips. Connect with me on LinkedIn as Taylor Phillips. Follow me on Pinterest, Taylor Phillips, and follow me on Tumblr at DT2Phillips. Let's. We have plenty of Lions news to get to, so why don't we get to that?
Sounds good to me. What do you want to start with first?
Well, the Lions have signed safety, former Cincinnati Bengals safety Taylor Mays, according to Josh Katzenstein of the Detroit News, from June 21st, 2015, at 6:44 a.m. Eastern Time. In their quest to find under-the-radar contributors for 2015, the Lions are signing safety Taylor Mays. Mays, whose deal with the Lions was first reported by ESPN Saturday morning, was a second-round pick by the San Francisco 49ers in 2010, but has yet to live up to his potential and will have to beat out some tough competition to make the Lions roster. As a rookie, Mays played 16 games and started 6, but the 49ers traded him to the Cincinnati Bengals for a 7th-round pick in 2013. During the past 4 seasons, Mays played in 50 games but started just 4 for the Bengals. Just 4. The Minnesota Vikings signed Mays in March, but they cut him on Tuesday. The Lions had 2 open roster spots after waiving quarterback Bill Bentley, who failed a physical, and rookie running back Rashid Williams. Mays, at age 27, is 6'3" and 225 pounds, and has experience playing both safety spots. The Lions have starters Glover Quinn and James Ahedebo returning. Issa Abdul-Quddus and Don Carey will likely make the roster at safety too, but Mays could make the team if he impresses on special teams. So, Los, can you please give us your insight on Taylor Mays?
Taylor Mays, in my opinion, has a very strong profile of fitting the scrap heap guy that comes to Detroit and makes good. I think it was an extremely shrewd move by Martin Mayhew picking him up. Now, his situation in Cincinnati was this. They needed him to play, they wanted him to be a free safety, and he really is more built in the mode of a strong safety. So, based on the value that Cincinnati had on him, he didn't fit the amount of money that he was making. A lot like Ahedebo is facing in Detroit. Now, Ahedebo did not go to OTAs because he's kind of in a contract dispute. And I will say that he has outplayed his contract. Ahedebo signed a deal for 2 years at $3.1 million. And he has obviously last year outvalued of that particular contract. He wants Detroit to sweeten the deal a little bit for him, but based on his age of 32 years old, it's kind of a situation where the Lions are saying to Ahedebo, listen, you had one good year, and one good year does not make us hand out money. So we need to see something on a consistent basis before we begin to enter those particular conversations. Now, Taylor Mays is going to be in that Cam Chancellor style of football. In fact, I think the Lions' style of defense fits him to a T. If you look at what the guy was known for in his college days, and he was a superstar in college, he was known as that big hitter. I see him as an inside-the-box safety for the Detroit Lions. Now, we have seen the Detroit Lions roll out a package where they actually will put 3 safeties on the field at once. And I think that is where Taylor is going to be for the Detroit Lions. He needs to make sure that he is in the playbook. But this guy has a chance to really solidify his spot on the defense based on the tools that he has. I can see Terrell Austin putting him in a position with the Detroit Lions for his career to take off. It is a great opportunity, and I'm really glad to see that he chose the Detroit Lions, because I'm sure that there were more than just the Detroit Lions that were after this kid. Remember, the kid's only been in the league now for 5 years, so he's right at the peak of his career. This kid has an opportunity in front of him, and I hope he sees it. I really, really do. Ilyasova, again, is 32 years old. We don't know what will happen after this year with him and his contract. Even in a backup situation, even if they decide they want to go the Mathis route with Ilyasova and they sign him for another 2 years, I think it's going to be somewhat of a value to have Taylor Mays as the backup, because Deuce is going to back up the free safety position. That's really his position on the field. He has shown that he can step in and play that inside the box safety, but he's not really built that way. He's a little more slight than what you're looking for in that situation. But if you look at Taylor Mays and the way the guy is built and the game that he brings, I think it'll make a very nice fit in Detroit's defense behind Ilyasova. And if things work out the way I envision them to work out, he may be next year our safety, the inside the box safety for the future. So the Lions were very fortunate to have Taylor Mays fall to them in their lap. But again, this is nothing new for the Detroit Lions. As we saw last year with George Johnson, we look at his career. The guy never had a sack his entire career. He comes to Detroit, he ends up with 9. So I think a lot of times for some of these guys, it's square peg and round holes. But if they can find a spot where someone can put them in a position to succeed, they can revive their careers. This is an opportunity.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you. Taylor Mays still has quite a bit of long ways to go, but Taylor Mays is developing as a safety, and he's just going to get better. So how about Quandre Diggs, still driven by competing with brother Quentin Jammer's legacy? Quandre Diggs is the Lions, one of the Lions draft picks at cornerback on MLive.com by Justin Rogers from Allen Park. When Detroit Lions rookie cornerback Quandre Diggs speaks, you can sense the defiance in his voice. He sounds as if he's on an unending mission to prove he belongs. If you're not careful, you could read it as insecurity. After all, he's only 5'9", undersized in a sport that favors giants. He's also grown up in the massive shadow cast by older brother Quentin Jammer, a former first-round draft pick and 12-year NFL veteran. But it's not insecurity that gives Diggs his edge. It's a competitive fire. Not only is he out to prove he belongs, but he's trying to outperform his accomplished sibling every step of the way. Diggs said, quote, "I always compete against what he did, even when he was in college and I was 7 or 8 years old playing Little League football. I was competing against him, trying to get more interceptions than he would get, on Saturdays, unquote. Diggs has done an admirable job to this point. At Angleton High School in Texas, Jammer was a three-year starter, and two-time All-District player. Diggs earned All-District honors all 4 years. Jammer went on to the University of Texas, recording 7 interceptions in 46 games, 38 starts. Diggs earned a starting job as a freshman and picked off 11 passes during his 4 years with the Longhorns. Diggs is quick to tell you with a big smile he's got the better hands between the two, but now he is faced with a daunting task of matching Jammer's professional career, and he's starting at a natural disadvantage. With a prototypical build, Jammer was one of the most coveted prospects coming out of college in the 2002 NFL Draft, eventually going number 5 overall to the San Diego Chargers. The undersized Diggs had to wait for 199 names to be called before the Detroit Lions selected him in the 6th round earlier this month. It's just another opportunity to tighten the chin strap and prove he belongs. Lions head coach Jim Caldwell said, quote, "What you see with him is what you get. Pretty intense guy. Always seems like he's got something to prove. Tough, hard-nosed, and yeah, I think that does resonate with his personality and everything that he does," unquote. The Lions are cross-training Diggs from the start, working him both inside and outside. Given his measurables and physicality, he looks to be a natural fit covering the slot. Of course, it shouldn't surprise you to hear he's confident with his ability to defend either spot. He said, quote, "Wherever I can play, I'm down for it. It doesn't matter. I like to think of myself as a versatile guy. I can definitely get it done inside and outside," unquote. Unlike Jammer, who was given a long leash to ride out some of his early NFL struggles, Diggs won't have the same leeway. Detroit's defensive backfield is crowded, and the competition for the nickel job figures to be fierce. Bill Bentley and Nevin Lawson are both slated to return from season-ending injuries this offseason, plus the team inked Josh Wilson, another Josh Wilson for a Detroit team, an 8-year veteran with 85 starts under his belt. But when Quentin Jammer is your brother, and you've been competing against his legacy your entire life, this new challenge isn't likely to faze Diggs one bit. And I would say more development coming from Quandre Diggs. Speaking of development, what say you, Carl? What say you, Los?
Listen, super excited. A lot of stories here are going to tie together. Now, Bill Bentley, our 3rd-round pick, was let go this week. Okay?
Yep.
And you're hearing the crying, just like everybody likes to begin crying. They start with, "Oh, another wasted pick." Pre-Xander's era. They've thrown away another 3rd-round pick. Good teams build their teams through the draft, and you cannot lose 2nd and 3rd-round picks with nothing to show for it. And I agree. Yes, that is an absolute true statement. But I'm going to tell you why I'm so high on Diggs. What's got me so excited about the situation that I'm seeing in Detroit? In Detroit, pre-Martin Mayhew era, you would see bad players replaced by bad players. In the post-Millen era, the Martin Mayhew era, you are seeing players that are being sent away because we have better players on the back end. Now, as far as the new regime is concerned, we don't have a huge sample size, but what we do have is a consistency on how they handle rookie players. Now, we drafted a guard in the first round this year. We drafted a linebacker in the second round last year. We drafted a tight end in the first round last year. And when we entered OTAs and mini camps, you never saw those guys running with the ones. Caldwell was very consistent about that. These guys are still rookies. They need to earn their positions. No one is going to hand anyone anything here in Detroit anymore. It doesn't matter where you were drafted. The best guys that can play are the ones that are going to play. And that is what we've seen out of Caldwell. Now, the eyebrow raiser, when you look at Diggs, is that Diggs has been running with the first team since OTAs.
Organized team activities.
Correct. And the mini camps. Now, a lot of people will say, well, you can't really glean a whole lot from those. Those are glorified football practices. They run around in shorts and helmets. Yes, that is true for an offensive lineman. Yes, that is true for a running back. Yes, that's true for a linebacker. Yes, that's true for the defensive line. But it is not true for a wide receiver or a defensive back. Because most of those drills are 7-on-7s and they're 11-on-11s. So you're seeing a guy who is competing with the ones, who stepped in from day one and has been running with the ones. Again, that's totally outside of the way business as usual for Caldwell. That is totally outside of that. Terrell Austin is saying he doesn't seem to mess up, so we keep giving him opportunities. In fact, Lakin Tomlinson has not run with the ones. Okay, it has been Manny Ramirez, and the reason, and Caldwell will tell you, you can't read too much into that. But listen, Tomlinson is a rookie, so I am going to go with the guy that has 9 years under his belt. As you spoke just a minute ago, another Josh Wilson. The guy has 8 years of experience under his belt. He would be the guy that would be running with the ones. Lawson's coming off the foot injury. Bentley's out of the picture. Diggs is a rookie, and Wilson is an 8-year veteran. But it's Diggs that's running with the ones. That speaks a lot to me. And again, we all know that it's camp happy time. We all know that no bad news comes out of OTAs. You don't generally hear about guys that are not doing very well. Usually everybody looks great. Everybody came in great shape. Everybody looks very athletic, so on and so forth. But the one thing that we need to really pay attention to when we're talking about the slot receiver or the slot corner is the fact that a rookie, a real rookie, is running with the ones. Now, you're also hearing chatter about the Lions moving to a dime defense. The Lions only ran the dime defense 2 times last year. So if Lawson is really coming along, as I've heard, and that's what I'm hearing, last year's 4th-round draft pick is coming along, the Detroit Lions are actually considering playing in a dime more often. So that speaks volumes about Diggs. Diggs could be a huge value. I mean, the guy was picked in the 6th round. And the only reason that you can find anybody that can tell you a reason for him being picked in the 6th round is that he wasn't big enough. Now, if you really look at him, he might be 5'9", but he's pretty stocky, pretty thick, pretty well put together 5'9". And we have seen guys, now again, the Honey Badger, for example. Not the biggest guy in the world, but all he does is make plays. Now, he has had a little bit of an injury history, so we can't get too excited about it. But I see an opportunity again for the Detroit Lions to have found some real value in the 6th round this year in Diggs. And a lot of that has to do with him running with the ones from day one and the fact that he isn't proclaiming that he's won any jobs or anything else like that. Again, I think it's a huge plus for him to have Quentin Jammer as his brother. he has perspective. When a player, I think, has perspective, it helps them with their maturity. In other words, they understand the good side of the game and the bad side of the game. Because he was around when Jammer wasn't quite what he used to be, and the sun went down on his career. So he got to see all sides of it. He understands what success looks like from a very intimate situation of being able to discuss it with his brother. So, again, good news coming out for the Detroit Lions. Keep your eye on that young kid. I think he's going to do a great job this year. And knock on wood, the health stays together. But it sure is nice to hear that a guy from the 6th round is running with the ones under this regime. It tells me a lot about what kind of game he's bringing so far.
I'd say give both Tomlinson and Quandre Diggs a shot this year. Play them more.
Oh, I don't doubt for one. I don't doubt for 1 minute that Tomlinson isn't going to start and isn't going to be our starting guard.
Right.
But the one thing again, the way that Caldwell and his regime and the way he runs his program is that he never likes to give anybody anything. In other words, just because you were picked number 1 doesn't mean that from day 1 you get to land on the field and you get to run with the ones. That because you were picked in the 1st round, you're automatically a starter. That is not the case. You need to learn the playbook. You need to. If you do make a mistake, you need to learn from your mistake and then perform the next opportunity that you're given. And that's how he brings his rookies along. Kyle Van Noy was taken in the 2nd round. Now, we didn't know who was going to play that position last year.
Because he got injured the whole year. He got injured that whole year.
Well, he got injured. And he did. But I'm talking about in the very beginning. We had no idea who was going to play that position. And he wasn't injured when he entered, when we had OTAs and minicamp. He didn't get hurt until the end of camp, of the actual camp preseason games. He didn't get hurt until the final game of the preseason. So he never was handed the job. Tahir Whitehead was ahead of him because he deserved to be ahead of him. So when I see a guy like Quandre Diggs running with the ones from the word go, from Jump Street, from the time that they blow that horn, and he hasn't been moved back, and he hasn't been replaced by Josh Wilson or any of that, and I follow it pretty closely, it tells me that this guy is 3 things. He's confident, he's intelligent, and he's athletic. Those are the 3 things that I know for sure about the guy, and it speaks volumes to him being in the position that he's in. So I do think we're going to see a lot of Diggs. I know we'll see Tomlinson, but again, he didn't get to come out and say, because I was the number 1 draft pick, I get to run with the ones. Until you understand the playbook, until you can prove to us that you can make a mistake, correct it the next time out, and play at a consistent level, you will not be running with the ones. And again, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I think Tomlinson can do all of those things, but it's always been that until you prove that, you don't get to run with the ones. Well, from day 1, this Diggs kid got a hold of the playbook. This Diggs kid's was given an opportunity to run with the ones, and has never left the field since he's been given an opportunity. So his learning curve, or his trajectory, is very high. And again, we got rid of Bill Bentley, 3rd round draft pick. And Bill Bentley flashed. He was a good college pro. He flashed. He could just never stay healthy. There's a lot of cornerbacks on this team. There is a lot of competition for that particular position. And to see him perform at the level that he's performing right out of the box is a very promising situation for both Quandre Diggs and the Detroit Lions going forward.
Yeah, I have to agree. They still have a lot. they still have some more developing to do. Still have a long ways to go. It's their first year here, and they probably need to learn more of the ropes from the ones and such. But I think the Lions are going to have a much better. I think the Lions are going to have a bit of a better year than they had last year, when they went 11-5 and finished 11-6. Oddly, but let's go into the Eric Ebron narrative here from Fansided.com. The Sideline Report from Mike Payton. Follow him on Twitter at LionMike26. Headline: The Detroit Lions and the Eric Ebron narrative. The media has always been known to put their slant on anything and everything. The use of certain tactics to bring in readers or change perceptions is something that has made the media the billion-dollar industry that it is today. One constant tactic in any form of media, from news, media, to entertainment to sports, is fear. You fear what's going on with Benghazi or ISIS, so you stay up till the 11 o'clock news to find out. You fear that the world doesn't find you pretty, handsome enough, so you buy the cosmetics the magazines suggest to make yourself feel good enough. You worry about what your kids are watching or listening to, so you take the advice of a short-sighted person on TV who has no kids because they tell you it's wrong. You fear that your football team made the wrong choice, so you rebel against it and subconsciously look for any reason to dislike it. That is what the Detroit Lions, and their 2014 first-round selection, Eric Ebron, are going through at this point. The media has downgraded many careers over its time, from Joe Dumars to pick a goalie or pitcher from a hat, but never has it picked on an athlete with such fervor, F-E-R-V-O-R, like it does Eric Ebron. This partially stems from the fans' early feelings that the Lions incorrectly selected a tight end after a summer that was red hot with Sammy Watkins rumors and the fear that Ndamukong Suh would leave the Lions after the 2014 season. Fans were looking for a reason to dislike this pick from the onset. The media knew this as well. For that reason, they went from initially liking the pick to fueling the fans' fiery dislike of Ebron to increase their own views. But does Eric Ebron deserve the criticism, or is he just like any other average player that struggles in his rookie year? Today I want to break this all down to better understand the Eric Ebron narrative and why it's reached the great heights that it has. Next, the how and why. Slide number 2. Let me first start out with a quick disclaimer. Not every member of the mainstream media follows a narrative. The majority are hard-working writers that put out original content as well as report the news in a fair and concise way. The game these days is to follow the narrative and continue to fuel it. But what that narrative has done has created a world where developing a talent over time has become unacceptable. We already live in an impatient world that needs their information now. If your Wi-Fi doesn't bring up a website immediately, it must be broken. Eric Ebron doesn't make the Pro Bowl his rookie year, he must be a bust. It all makes perfect sense if you think about it. People can't even wait for their coffee to be ready anymore. Why would they expect it to wait for an athlete to develop? You wait because, much like a car with a new tire, if you don't tighten all the bolts, the wheel is going to fall off and you'll be stranded in the desert with that lurking animal that looks hungry. Patience is key with anything, even football. But what is media telling Lions fans when they bring up things like drops? Especially when the media only reports the drops of one player. They're saying that everything else is peachy keen besides Ebron. Not one player has a single drop. But of course, why would they want to tell the fans about other players dropping the ball? Because if they say Calvin Johnson dropped three balls today, it makes Ebron's drops look normal, therefore making it okay, therefore killing the narrative, therefore looking for another subject to write about, therefore costing themselves precious clicks and views. Next, revisionist history. This narrative has opened the door to revisionist history like nothing before. For example, the day that Odell Beckham made this amazing catch, this tweet came out on Twitter at Luce Kyle, L-U-C-E Kyle. If you think you are having a bad day, just remember the Lions drafted Eric Ebron over Odell Beckham Jr. Nothing against Cash Kyle, but I would bet my life savings that if the tables were turned and it was Ebron making that catch for the Giants, he would have been upset that the Lions drafted Beckham over Ebron. The problem is, for every Odell Beckham, there's 13 Eric Ebrons. There's no way to know that Beckham would have such a great rookie season. Just like fantasy football players will likely learn soon, there's no way to tell if he will have a great sophomore season either. So to say now that the Lions should have drafted someone else is irrational. It's like saying Vietnam should have never happened. There's nothing anyone could do about it now. The big question I have is, why don't fans use their revisionist history on other years? Surely this is not the first time you disagreed with a decision made by the Lions. Why are there not constant tweets about how the Lions should have taken Aaron Rodgers instead of Mike Williams, or how the Lions shouldn't have traded Bobby Lane? If anybody has an answer to that question, I'd love to hear it. Last but not least, how Ebron stacks up. 4 of 4. I'm certainly not saying that Eric Ebron is a success or will become one, but at the end of the day, he really is no different than your run-of-the-mill rookie. For every Odell Beckham, there are 13 Ebrons. Wait, that's What I'm saying there is, more often than not, players struggle in their rookie year, especially at a position like tight end. It's commonly thought of as a developmental piece of the puzzle. Most will struggle in year one, then immediately begin to come on in year two. Here are the rookie year stats of every starting tight end in the NFL. For the Lions, Eric Ebron, 25 receptions, 248 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. Not bad. Jacob Tamme of the Falcons, 3 receptions, 12 receiving yards, 0 touchdowns. That's bad. Dennis Pitta for the Ravens, 1 reception, 1 receiving yard, 0 touchdowns. Not enough production there, pal. Charles Clay of the Bills, 16 receptions, 233 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's very good. Bengals, Tyler Eifert, 39 receptions, 445 yards, 2 touchdowns. Gary Barnidge of the Browns, 12 receptions, 242 yards, 0 touchdowns. Owen Daniels of the Broncos, 34 receptions, 352 yards, 5 touchdowns. Wow. C.J. Fedorovich of the Houston Texans, 4 receptions, 28 yards, 1 touchdown. Dwayne Allen of the Colts, 45 catches, 521 yards, 3 touchdowns. Julius Thomas of the Jaguars, 1 catch, 5 yards, no touchdowns. Travis Kelce of the Chiefs, 67 receptions, 862 yards, 5 touchdowns. Jordan Cameron of the Dolphins, 6 receptions, 33 yards, 0 touchdowns. Rob Gronkowski of the Patriots, 42 receptions, 546 yards, 10 touchdowns. The scoring wide receiver, scoring tight end there. Jeff Cumberland of the Jets, 1 catch, 3 yards, no touchdowns. Michael Rivera of the Raiders, 38 catches, 407 yards, 4 touchdowns. Heath Miller of the Steelers, 39 catches, 459 yards, 6 touchdowns. Barco commented, good show, thanks. Brian Eimers commented, I like Ebron, I do too. I think so as well. They will have a better year. I agree. Antonio Gates of the Chargers, 24 catches, 389 yards, 2 touchdowns. Delaney Walker of the Titans, 2 catches, 30 yards, 0 touchdowns. Troy Nicholas of the Cardinals, the Arizona Cardinals that is, 3 catches, 38 yards, 0 touchdowns. Martellus Bennett of the Chicago Bears, 20 catches, 283 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jason Witten of the Cowboys, 35 catches, 347 yards, 1 touchdown. Andrew Quarles of the Packers, 21 catches, 238 yards, 1 touchdown. Kylie Rudolph of the Vikings, 26 catches, 249 yards, 3 touchdowns. Josh Hill of the Saints, 6 catches, 44 yards, 1 touchdown. Larry Donnell of the Giants, the New York Giants, that is. 3 catches, 31 yards, 0 touchdowns. Got about 6 more to go. Vernon Davis of the 49ers, 20 catches, 265 yards, 3 touchdowns. Zach Ertz of the Eagles, 36 catches, 469 yards, 4 touchdowns. Jimmy Graham of the Seahawks, now with the Saints, 31 yards, 356 yards, 5 touchdowns. Let me see here. Jared Cook, of the Rams, 9 catches, 74 yards, 0 touchdowns. Safarian Jenkins of the Buccaneers, 21 catches, 221 yards, 1 touchdown. And last but not least, Jordan Reed of the Redskins, 45 catches, 499 yards, 3 touchdowns. As you can see, Eric Ebron is pretty much in line with most tight ends in the NFL. This is not one to say that he is as good or better than anyone on this list. It's simply to say that one year isn't it. You can't have a delicious steak without having raw meat first. You have to prepare it. Maybe your mind is made up already when it comes to Ebron. You're going to dislike him no matter what. By all means, I invite you to do that. But when you're standing in front of the TV waiting for Ebron to make a mistake so you can say I told you so, you won't be alone. There will likely be an article or a tweet right here to fuel your fire. What do you think? Is Ebron a bust after 1 year, or does the media want you to think that? Or do my personal question is, do the fans want you to think that? Leave your comments below, and be sure to follow us on Twitter at @SideLionReport and at LionMike26 for all your Lions news and original content. So, Los, the floor is yours.
Okay, here's my thoughts on Ebron. One of the things that I cannot agree with in the article is that he's run-of-the-mill, that he can be labeled a run-of-the-mill rookie. When you are picked at number 10 in the NFL draft, you are not afforded a run-of-the-mill rookie, especially in that particular draft. Now, the big thing when mentioning the Sammy Watkins, the Odell Beckhams, the Kelvin Benjamins, the Jarvis Landrys, and so on and so forth of this particular draft is that these guys were put into a situation where they were asked to take their franchise and move them up, get them upwardly mobile. In other words, when they were picked, they were looked at by their fan base as you're the guy. Victor Cruz wasn't healthy. There wasn't any indication that he would be fully healthy this year. So we knew all along that Odell Beckham Jr. was supposed to be the guy for the New York Giants. And he became the guy for the New York Giants.
Other way around. Sorry about that. Brian Eimers corrected me. Other way around. Jimmy Graham played for the Saints. Now he's on the Seahawks. Okay, continue.
Okay, so now Odell Beckham comes in, and he had to be the man, and he was the man. Sammy Watkins had to be the man, and he was the man. Kelvin Benjamin had to be the man and was the man. Mike Evans had to be the man and was the man. Eric Ebron, when he came to Detroit, did not face that same situation. That was not the case for Eric Ebron. Eric Ebron is in a very, very, very good position to succeed. Detroit picked him in the right place. When you're talking about coverage for the Detroit Lion offense, Calvin Johnson is going to get the best player of the opposing defense to cover him, generally with safety help over the top and a linebacker underneath. Golden Tate, as we saw last year after his production, is going to get a lot of attention. He's going to at least see a soft double coverage, leaving Eric Ebron to compete against the third or fourth best defensive player on the opposing defense. And generally, it's going to be in single coverage. When you are picked at 10, you absolutely have to beat that on a consistent basis. Now, I understand that it can be viewed
as what?
I understand that it can be viewed as the media's being meanie poo dum-dums and they're just being mean to him. I understand that. I can feel where Mike is coming from that angle. But at the same time, when a lot is given, a lot is expected. Some of it can be put on the offensive coordinator. If you look at Eric Ebron's tape from college, Eric Ebron played above the coverage. Eric Ebron was a field stretcher. During his Lions campaign last year, he was more of a side-to-side line guy. He never really challenged the coverage. In fact, for the last 3 or 4 games of the year, Eric Ebron was getting open, but he really wasn't never thrown to. In other words, he was almost ignored in the Lions offense. A lot of that, I think, had to do with the trust factor between him and Matthew Stafford. And he is doing things to rectify the situation. For example, now that the minicamp is broken, he will be in Atlanta working out with Matthew Stafford and Calvin Johnson. If you read anything about how he's come into camp this year and the type of shape that he's in. He definitely took the time in the off season to become a better athlete, which is very promising. And again, I think that's where he needs to build mental toughness. I think he needs to not say anything. Just put his head. The answer to Eric Ebron's problems, in my opinion, are for him to put his head down and to go to work. And I have noticed that Eric Ebron almost is taking a resentful stance to how the media is treating him and how the fan base is treating him. And I don't think that by him posting things on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook about how the fan doesn't know or doesn't understand or that we're haters or whatnot, I don't necessarily think that's the answer to his problem. I think the answer to his problem, again, is to put his head down and go to work. Again, and if he does not come out this year and produce a lot better than he has, because I believe, based on the situation that we have here in Detroit, he could have that Gronk style of number. I mean, I don't think it's outside the possibility for him to catch, 40 or 50 balls, put up anywhere from 500 to 700 yards, and 10 touchdowns. If all you're doing is going against the number 2, or you're going against the number 3 and 4 coverage guy on the opposing defense, I guarantee you Gronk is not seeing the number 2 or the number 3, number 4 cover guy on any defense. We all know that whoever's playing the Patriots, they're game planning against Gronk. We know that. I don't think anyone's game planning against Ebron. In fact, I know no one is game planning against Ebron. Now, you ask yourself, well, how did he manage to be a 10th round pick? What is it that made him a 10th round pick? Well, what made him a 10th round pick is size, speed, and athleticism. That's what made him a number 10 in the first round. That's what made him that. It has to translate. It absolutely has to translate. And if it doesn't, it'll be a huge failure, because there were so many difference makers in that year's draft at the wide receiver position, and we all knew that Calvin Johnson needed help. And the pleasant surprise was Golden Tate. He got help. But could you imagine, had it been a Calvin Benjamin or a Mike Evans or an Odell Beckham Jr. or a Sammy Watkins, that you can line up on there and have anybody of that ilk go against Green Bay's number 3 or number 4th cornerback, or Minnesota's number 3 or 4th cornerback, or Chicago's number 3 or 4th cornerback? Imagine the production that you should be seeing out of that particular position. And that doesn't take anything away from Calvin Johnson or Golden Tate or any of the other players on the Detroit Lions roster or offense. It should enhance it. It should enhance it. And again, you can cry that the media is being mean. That's your right.
Cry, baby! How long are you going to keep whining like a child?
It is right. And again, I think it's very insightful. But that's one of the reasons why I thought it was important that we talk about this particular topic. And I think Mike did a really good job of pointing that out. But as fans, it's our right to have our opinions. It's our right to think what we want to think. Yep. And yes, the media does play a part in what we think. But the one way for that all to end for Eric Ebron is, again, shut up, put your head down, and go to work. And there is nothing wrong, I don't care what anybody says, to not only expect but demand that you produce on a consistent basis when you're the number 10th pick in the draft and you're facing the 3rd and 4th best guys on the opposing defenses.
Yeah, I have to agree. Eric Ebron sometimes like keeps venting on his narrative on his blog that the media and the fans haven't been treating him right. But it's only year one. But Eric Ebron's gonna have to shut his mouth and play the game. And he's entering year two. He's gonna have to keep his mouth shut and prove the haters and doubters more wrong than he did last year. And it's just that simple. There are no excuses in the National Football League, even for rookies. And you mentioned Calvin Johnson needed help, and that Golden Tate had help. That were very good points. And hopefully Eric Ebron just comes clean and just plays the game of football more consistently. That's all Lions fans are asking from him. And that's what the front office is expecting from him. That's what the coaches are expecting from him. And the expectations are very high after a rookie season. After like an average rookie season that Ebron had last year. And Eric Ebron will actually get better sometime. The question is when. That's all there is to it. Yep.
If it's not in a hurry, if it's not like right now, get better like right now. Again, what is the difference between when we look at it, when we sit back and we think about it, and let's play that we were the agents for these particular players, and we were to say, okay, Sammy, you got drafted by the Buffalo Bills. Now there's C.J. Spiller, who has flashed but hasn't been able to stay healthy, hasn't really been able to put together a real consistent situation in the running back position. We have a rookie as a quarterback. We have an aging wide receiver group there. We do have a very good offensive line, but you're coming into a situation where Sammy Watkins, you're going to have to be the number one wide receiver starting day one, and you're going to be where we're going to be looking to score touchdowns in our offense. In other words, you're the guy. Same with Mike Evans. You're going into a situation where we have a rookie quarterback and a grizzled veteran who's given an opportunity again, but never really put up any kind of elite numbers. In fact, when we talk about arrows trending up or down, the arrow's trending very much down for the quarterback that it's looking like you'll be playing with. Your job is to step in and be the number one guy, and our offense is basically going to run through you. You're the man. Same exact thing happened in Carolina for Kelvin Benjamin. They moved out all of their veteran wide receivers. They brought Kelvin Benjamin in, and they said, "Listen, we have a tight end, and we have you, and you two guys are going to be the guys." And each one of those players in that situation produced. Each one of those players in their own situation came through. Now, shouldn't I feel a little extra disappointed when, as an agent, I'm sitting Eric Ebron down and I'm saying, "Listen, man, I've got a young on the cusp of being elite quarterback for you. I have what was considered a very good line the year before for you. I have the best wide receiver, or one of the best wide receivers in the game, in Calvin Johnson for you. I have a hot new free agent in Golden Tate that's going to help things along for you. And your only job is to go out and beat the third or fourth wide cover man for the opposing defense. That's your only job. That's all you have to do, sir, is go out and beat those kind of guys on a consistent basis, and life will be lovely for you in Detroit. And he wasn't able to do that. When he came in, it was all about the bravado. It was all about how he was going to be a superstar and whatnot. And then we got the narrative, well, maybe the playbook is a little bit too complicated for him. Maybe we need to pare it down a little bit for him.
It shouldn't be too complicated. He's got to know the game in this. He's got to know the complications of the game at this level.
That's what I say. And at the end of the day, you still got the third or fourth best athlete that you're competing against. And you're not beating him on a consistent basis. You were picked number 10, man. You were picked number 10. There's 286 guys picked in the NFL draft. You're in the 1% of the 1%. And I expect I don't not only expect, I demand as a fan that you get it done. Now, again, are we being mean? Maybe. Is it our fault that we're being mean, or is it
Ebron's fault?
One of the Detroit sports writers the reason that we're being mean? It's your fault, Bubba, that we're being mean. You hit the nail on the head, Tyler.
Taylor.
You hit the nail on the head, Taylor. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
Thank you.
It's Ebron's fault.
Yep.
It's Ebron's fault that he's in the position he's in. And you can write all the pieces you want about how it's unfair, but again, it's not show friends, it's show business. And you got $8 million in guaranteed money, and we expect something for the $8 million.
Yep, and they expect you to earn that paycheck by performing to the best of your abilities and produce more to help this team win offensively and not just defensively. Because the defense keeps giving you and your offense chances to win games by a route. And the offense just didn't produce. Not only because Ebron was dropping the ball at times, but although he caught quite a few, their offensive line wasn't pulling their weight. But in this year's organized team activities, the offensive line has performed a lot better. But Eric Ebron, it's time for you to step it up a few notches. It's time for you to turn on your afterburners, rev up that engine, and just start catching the ball more. That's what we like to see out of you. The fans, the media, and the coaches in the front office love to see that from you. Don't just keep writing on the web on your venting blog or whatever it is. that whatever you're writing it is wrong and stuff like that. Just cut back more on the web. Just focus on the game.
The bad dream ends when he produces. That's the answer to his question.
Yep.
Give us something else to write about, and we'll stop writing about drops. We'll stop writing about what happened last year. We'll stop writing about what was expected of you. All you have to do is come out and do your job. Put your head down, go to work. And in fact, I'm friends with his dad on Facebook, like I told his dad, I said, listen, you guys can't be distracted by what is written. You really can't. You know, it is not. Believe me, it's the furthest thing from your keys to success to become distracted about what's written about. And the only reason that I have these discussions with him on the internet is because I think he is influential in his son's life. And Senior seems to get it. I mean, every time that we've had conversations, I think he understands my point of view. But as I told Senior, I said, you know, you cannot take what is written personally. A lot of it is view-driven. A lot of it is to create an emotion. A lot of what's written or what's said on a sports show or any of those things is to gain a conditioned response. You want to stir the emotions of your listeners or your readers, and you're looking for that response. Well, all the ammunition that I think, and as you've stated, that Eric Ebron puts out, he is not helping his situation by putting those things out there or becoming offended by what is being said about you or written about you on a sports talk show or an article or any of these things. The only thing that I think and is imperative for you moving forward and to become successful in your career is to put your head down and go to work. And the minute that those things begin to change, that's when things will change for Ebron.
Okay, we got about an hour left. I'm going to take a 2 to 3 minute break, and then we'll get to the Red Wings and Pistons to fill up the time. So come on back, folks. Please hold, Los. and this is Taylor's Detroit Sports episode 156. I am back. Carlos Martinez standing by. Let's talk about the Red Wings. They have 2 days ago they refused 2.5 days ago they refused to. They reportedly were no longer interested in trading for defenseman Dion Phaneuf. They permanently refused that. Los, I would suppose they are trying to keep Anthony Mantha and trying to maybe deep down contemplating pursuing defenseman Mike Green from the Washington Capitals. That I think those were I think that those two clues might be on hand for their decision not to trade for Dion Phaneuf, the defenseman for the Toronto Maple Leafs. What are your thoughts? Los, you there? Hello? Los? But anyway, I still think Dion Phaneuf is a valuable left-handed shooting defenseman. I still think the Wings would have taken him, but hey, Los, are you there? Bless me. I sneezed there. Los? Los? Los is not responding. Los, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yep. Okay. So what are your thoughts? Technical difficulties there. What are your thoughts on the Red Wings being no longer interested in trading for Toronto Maple Leafs defenseman Dion Phaneuf?
I'm wondering if the price to do business was an issue there. I can't see anything being of health concerns. I can't really seeing it being a problem of a signability issue. I'm wondering if they. I have a feeling the Maple Leafs have a little more in mind than the Red Wings are willing to give up. Obviously, I think there's value there because the Red Wings have made a real conscious effort of acquiring him, but I don't think that they were able to come together as far as compensation. Now, we may find later on, as time goes on, that the market will adjust itself. Because I really haven't heard of anybody else being too interested or making a play for that player, making it more difficult for the Red Wings. I think the two sides have come together. I think the two sides have pretty much let each other know where they stand on the value end of it. But I don't think that it's coming together, and I think that is the reason that it is not coming together. It's more of a compensation situation or a value situation as opposed to a health situation or anything else, or a signability situation. So that's where I stand on the topic.
So, and speaking of left-handed shooting defensemen, like I mentioned before, the Red Wings still might use a left-handed shooting defenseman. They also might search for another right-handed defenseman as well in Mike Green of the Washington Capitals. He had better stats than Dion Phaneuf had last season. Would you agree?
I think the reason they want the lefty is more of a philosophy style of I think that's one of the reasons why they might be putting a little more value into the lefty. But yeah, I wouldn't feel bad if they ended up with a righty that can play. So again, if the only thing that I will say with the righty is that I have heard some things that there might be a signability issue with him. The amount of money that am I correct in assuming that this is it? This is his contract year. This is the last year for the righty, correct?
Yep, he is officially a free agent.
After that, and if I'm not mistaken, what I've heard is that the only real question with him is signability if they acquire him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So again, that's going to be a factor that's weighed in there. But yeah, do I think he would make the Detroit Red Wings a better team? Absolutely.
What would be the best left wing? What would be the best left-handed shooting defenseman that is more affordable and more dependable for the Red Wings to pick up? If you look out there in all of the in the entire list of NHL free agents right now, and you had to browse on it and then choose one that would best completely fit the Red Wings as the left-handed shooting defenseman, who would you be? You can take a wild guess if you have to.
What's the kid's name that plays for Tampa Bay? I believe he's going to be a free agent this year. What is his name?
They got Nikita Kucherov, Tyler Johnson.
Tyler Johnson.
Yep.
That's the guy I'm picking up. Tyler Johnson. I believe he's going to be a free agent coming out this year, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, that'd be my guy. If I had to throw a lot of money at it, in other words, I get to play Holland for a minute, that'd be my fellow right there. I think he would fit. I think he fits the way that. I'm almost wondering if the Red Wings aren't in an evolution type of a situation. I'm wondering if we aren't going to see under the new head coach not a complete wholesale change in the way the Detroit Red Wings play hockey, but at least a noticeable one. I think that they're going to evolve the game a little bit, the way they play the game a little bit, and I think that he fits that evolution. I think where the Red Wings were, I want to say super aggressive, because that's the way I kind of view the Red Wings. The Red Wings are kind of an all or nothing team. I think they're going to become a little more conservative on the defensive side, and I think he plays into that. I think he could really fit into that situation. And when I say conservative, I guess I'm not saying that you're going to see a lot of statues standing in front of the goalie, but I think what you're going to see is, I think you're going to see guys that can skate. I think you're going to see guys that can handle the puck. But more so than not, I think you're going to see guys that are going to depend a lot more on angles, and are going to depend a lot more on fundamentals as opposed to speed. Where it always seemed like the Red Wings again were super aggressive hockey team. Everything was based on speed. Everything was based on scoring, and they wanted to get out ahead. They wanted to get you in a position where you were playing from behind. Now, when it didn't work out when that particular strategy or philosophy didn't work out for the Red Wings, you saw them almost become a shell of themselves, where they began to take too many chances. And it cost them. It would put them further and further and further in the hole. I think the Red Wings want to kind of stabilize this situation a little bit, and they want to. I don't think they want to be quite as aggressive. Again, I don't think it'll be wholesale changes. I don't think that you're going to see that if we turn on the Red Wings next season that we're going to say, well, I don't even recognize this team. But I do think that the tweaks that they make and the new coach makes are going to be noticeable. I think they're going to be something that you're going to say, I can see where this is different from Red Wings past.
I would have to agree. As far as Tyler Johnson is concerned, he's a very, very, very good left-handed shooting defenseman. He would be more affordable as well. Unlike how unaffordable Dion Phaneuf can be to the Wings, who again are no longer interested in trading for him. And Tyler Johnson was one of those players that led the Lightning to the Stanley Cup final against the Chicago Blackhawks, who beat them in 6 games to win the cup. Blackhawks have created a dynasty, by the way. 3 Stanley Cups in their last 6 seasons. How impressive is that?
You want to know what? I'm impressed. And I don't understand the narrative from last week that they are not a dynasty. That you can't call them a dynasty. All of a sudden, it seems like the rules have changed for dynasties. Now you have to win 4 in a row, or I don't know what it is that you have to win. Now you have to win because the definition in the dictionary says one thing and whatnot. We have proclaimed. I am in the camp that as fans, we proclaim dynasties. We decide what a dynasty is and what isn't a dynasty. Now, do I think that question is asked a bit too much in today's sports world? Absolutely. That question is that label is constantly trying to be applied to some people and to some teams that aren't deserving. But at the same time, I am not one of those guys that's going to stand in line and tell you that what the Blackhawks have done since the new CBA or collective bargaining agreement in professional hockey, and now living under a salary cap, I'm not standing in the line that says that they are not a dynasty. As far as I can tell, they are a dynasty. In fact, I'm going to put a big, super-duper validated stamp on it if they happen to win another one. I don't think it's very probable that they win another one. Again, in a cap league, once you begin to have those type of players and you begin to produce at that level, the finances, the economic side of the game begins to bear down and put pressure on you. I don't think they'll be able to hold that team intact. I think you're going to see guys that are going to go and get paid deservingly so elsewhere. So I don't know if the Blackhawks have another one in them, but if they, by some imagination, I didn't think they had it in them this year. I mean, if you were to ask me at the beginning of the season when hockey started, do I think the Blackhawks are going to win the Cup again? I would have given you an emphatic no. So, again, they exceeded my expectations. Of course, they validated it with a winning of the Stanley Cup. And yes, I do believe that they are a dynasty, and it will be unquestioned. Again, as I said before, it'll be unquestioned if they can find a way to replicate it one more time and put one more trophy in their case. But yes, totally impressed with the Chicago Blackhawks.
So, yep. So am I. The Blackhawks have been good on their own home ice. They've been very good on the road. They won two of the 3 road games they played in the Stanley Cup final, and they won 2 out of 3 at home. They just got it done this year. They got it done 2 years ago, and they got it done 5 years ago. And they're just looking to keep piling it on. But when the Red Wings make their run with Jeff Blashill, watch out. They could be a factor to be reckoned with against the Blackhawks. Maybe we could see a Stanley Cup final preview.
Agreed. And you know what other point I'd like to bring up?
Yeah.
On how, listen, the Red Wings' fingerprints are all over both of these teams. You've got, for the Tampa Bay Lightning, you have the guy in Detroit running that franchise.
Steve Yzerman.
Exactly, the captain. When you've got the captain running that franchise, the Red Wings' fingerprints are all over the Tampa Bay Lightning. When you look at the Blackhawks, you've got the greatest coach that's ever coached hockey giving his son pointers.
Scotty Bowman to Stan Bowman.
There you go. It's all over the place. So, hey, kudos, man. I mean, they went out and got the best, and they got the best. They spent their money wisely. They got their money's worth. Both clubs did. I'm going to give it to both clubs. But again, let's not forget where those guys came from. And I agree. I can't wait to see the new coach. The Detroit Red Wings are in a position this year and moving forward to be relevant again, to be very competitive again, to take their place in hockey again. And what happens with these defensemen is going to play a part of that. Coach Blashill's going to play a big part of that. So yeah, I'm excited for hockey, dude. It's all over, and I already miss it.
Me too. It's been a while since the Red Wings won last won their Stanley Cup in 2008. They lost in 2009 at home in Game 7 to the Pittsburgh Penguins of the Cup final, 2-1. When they had that scoring chance in the last 5 to 6 seconds, Lidstrom made a desperate shot. Marc-Andre Fleury made that desperate diving save, and the Penguins hung on, and that was the backbreaker to the Red Wings organization. They took steps back to create more youth, put more youth into it, and they only managed to make it to 3 conference semifinals the next 4 years, but then in partially the same process, they have lost in the conference quarterfinals in 3 of the last 4 seasons. They have lost in the semifinals 3 times, and they've lost in the quarterfinals 3 times. No conference final appearances in 6 years since 2009, and that was the end of Babcock's reign. It was almost kind of like the process of tearing his legacy with the Red Wings apart. And it was almost like the domino effect. It just started taking effect after that backbreaker in 2009 in Game 7. And the Red Wings, I believe, should have won 2 cups in a row in 2009, but they kept turning the puck over, and the Penguins took advantage because they just played with poise and passion. The Red Wings were getting too cocky, and they paid for it. And that's all part of the game right there. If you get too cocky on your own home ice in a Game 7, that's likely when the chances are likely you will not win. And that teaches you a very cold, hard lesson in sports. You would lose a championship in a Game 7 on your own home ice. That is so embarrassing that you have lost your dignity, some of your dignity, and some of your legacy as well. But now, But now with the Red Wings having Jeff Blashill as their new head coach, and Chris Chelios is one of their assistants, and Tony Granado is staying as the other. Who knows? They might go. Who knows? They might go further than failing to reach a conference final.
I agree, and hey, that's another thing that you brought up, Chelios. I thought that was a very good move by Blashill. I think Blashill's doing the right thing and bringing in a little support system, a guy that has been around the block, that really does have strong ties to Detroit. I have heard some people say that it was more of a gimmick, that it was like fireworks at the Michigan game kind of a thing. I don't agree with that at all. I think that Chelios brings a lot of insight. I think it's a very good value move by Blashill to add him to his staff, and I'm excited to see him actually move forward in his coaching career, and I think he'll bring a lot the Red Wings. I really am excited about the move of bringing Chelios and making him part of the staff.
Yeah, me too. Chris Chelios won 2 cups with Detroit. Chris Chelios won 2 cups with Detroit. Has had a long history as a hockey player. Chris Chelios tried to chase Gordie Howe for the longest to become like the oldest player to ever keep playing hockey. Gordie Howe finished at age 52. Chelios, would say, finished like 45 or 47. And now he's becoming an assistant coach the last few years, and I believe he has done a great job at it. So, yeah, go ahead.
Wouldn't that be irony? You've got the captain in Tampa Bay doing great things for the Lightning. You've got the Bowmans in Blackhawk country doing great things for Chicago. Wouldn't that be irony to have Chicago's native son in Chris Chelios? Because let's face it, he is a Red Wing, and we love him here in Detroit. But his legacy really is in Chicago. And to have a guy that is the second son to the Chicago Blackhawks come in and help the Red Wings, and as you say, and as we both have said, if they do move on and bring themselves back to their position, their natural position in the world of professional hockey, and that is a Stanley Cup competitor and a Stanley Cup winner, wouldn't that be irony for the folks down there in Chicago to know that it was their guy that helped the Detroit Red Wings become a better hockey team?
And I think he will. He was a defenseman, and he can help everyone, especially all the defensemen the Red Wings have right now. Jonathan Ericsson, Brendan Smith. Jonathan Ericsson was so afraid to block shots last year. Brendan Smith was just undisciplined. I mean, still he's young, but he's got to change his level of discipline a bit. Danny DeKeyser, Marek Zidlitsky, Kyle Quincy, Jakob Kindl, also Nicholas Kronwall, who was suspended for Game 7 of the past first round against the Lightning. It was a dirty hit, by the way. It was he left his feet and nailed Kucherov in the head in Game 6 when the Red Wings had a chance to close out the Lightning at the Joe on their own home ice, and that was unnecessary. Those are about the 7 that those are all the defensemen for the Red Wings that I've come up with. Lashoff's and GR.
Kaiser.
Yep.
I can't wait to see what he does for Kaiser and Cronwell. I think he's going to have a big effect on Kaiser and Cronwell. I don't think we've seen them hit their ceiling as far as potential is concerned. I'm really excited to see if Chelios can bring some of that attitude that he had on the ice to these guys. I think he could change their careers. I think that's the opportunity for both Kaiser and Cronwell. The opportunity is to be coached by Chelios, and I think Chelios' opportunity is to put his fingerprints on those two guys, and I think he can take those two guys to the next level.
Yep, I have to agree. One more topic to get to. Let's get to it right away. To basketball, the Detroit Pistons have recently made a trade sending Caron Butler, a three-point shooter, and Shawne Williams to the Milwaukee Bucks for Ersan Ilyasova. Some believe that he shoots threes and he can play very good defense. What are your thoughts, Los?
Yeah, he can do both of those things. Do I think that's what the Detroit Pistons need? Not so much, but yeah. Again, looking at the general manager for the Pistons, I've really yet to have a good feel for what his plan is. I mean, if I ask you that question, Taylor.
Jeff Bauer. Yep.
What is his plan? Tell me what is Van Gundy's plan?
Well,
you had to tell me what is Van Gundy's plan for the Detroit Pistons?
He's here to get the Pistons back in the playoffs, and then moving forward from that, winning an NBA championship, trying to make a deeper run.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the obvious answer. I guess that's the plan of every general manager in the NBA. But what is his plan? I mean, is he looking to build around? Is he looking to build around a young superstar? Is he looking to put together 2 or 3 complementary mid-level pieces? Is he going toward a defensive basketball team such as both Bad Boys 1 and 2? When I look at Van Gundy and I watch the moves that he makes,
specifically, specifically, the Pistons do need better defense because they've been allowing a lot of. Last season, they allowed like more than 100 points. In most of their games, they have been leaving opposing three-point shooters wide open, shooting threes and hitting most of them, and that's mostly what's been killing the Pistons defense and the Pistons team as a whole, and that's what drives me crazy. Every time I see that constantly, I'm thinking the Pistons need to guard that arc better, and I think Ersan Ilyasova is an example that can help the Pistons guard the arc better. They can allow less points from the opposing team. Brian Eimer's commented he likes the pickup from the Pistons, but he can tell us this team needs to start winning like now, and this league's all about threes now.
That's it. That's pretty much it. The game has moved away from the big man, and it's now about scoring 3-point shots. That's really what it's all about. Now, did the Detroit Pistons find themselves with their pants down this season and not being in front of the curb of defending the 3? Yeah, I will say I'll agree with you on that.
Definitely.
Absolutely. But moving forward, I have yet, again, if I'm sitting here, I mean, I can tell you, when we talk about the Tigers, Ausmus is trying to build a strong pitching staff and back it up with a nice lineup of bats. That is his blueprint for the Detroit Tigers. And for the most part, he's accomplished that. His weaknesses are the bullpen, and they used to be the closer, but that has been rectified. When we look at the Detroit Lions, we want to be a prolific offense, and we want to continue being a dominant defense. The blueprint is there. They went out and found offensive lineman. They went out and got a skilled player in Abdul. They went out and got
Amir Abdullah.
They got players like Golden Tate. When I sit back and I look at the Pistons, I don't see anything. I mean, we'll take who was just in the last championship finals, right? We had the Golden State Warriors, led by Curry. We had the Cleveland Cavaliers, led by LeBron James. And LeBron James is, again, a once-in-a-generation player, so we can't really count him. But when you look at Golden State's,
the NBA champion.
The NBA champion, and the reason they're NBA champion is because they could shoot the lights out. They could score 100 points. They could score 140 points if they needed to score 140 points.
And they can defend and snag rebounds. Take former Spartan Draymond Green, for example. He's a beast on defense and near the glass. He stuffed LeBron twice in game 2, I think, game 1 or game 2, and he kept snagging those rebounds off the rim, and he was one of the keys. He was one of the key players to the Golden State Warriors beating the Cleveland Cavaliers in 6 games in the NBA Finals, and also take Andre Iguodala becoming the MVP. But Green shows an example of why defense is the name of the game, and so is rebounding. Well, mostly. You got to win with offense as well. You got to put them all together.
Yes, but if you had to put a premium on one or the other, which one would you put your? Well, in other words, you got $1 to spend. How much of that $1 are you going to invest into offense, and how much are you going to invest into defense? Or do you think it's a 50-50 split?
Man, their offense has been tearing it up, especially with Reggie Jackson and KCP. Brandon Jennings, before he got injured for the rest of the season, he helped the Pistons' offense skyrocket in points. And now with Jennings coming back to rejoin Reggie Jackson, Contavious Caldwell-Pope, and others, Andre Drummond and Ilyasova and Anthony Tolliver and others, the Pistons' offense will skyrocket even more. They might score 140 points, like you mentioned, Los, and they also, like we also mentioned, they needed defense, and Ilyasova is one of the units that the Pistons need for defense. The question is, how much more defensive units do you think the Pistons should pick up, and how many more defensive units that they pick up?
Well, okay. Here's my argument to that. Here's where I'm going to split away from the way you view it. Again, I believe that defense is more of a mindset than it is an actual talent, so to speak. Unlike being able to shoot the three-point shot, either you can or you can't. Playing defense is more of an effort situation. When people put effort into defense, that is when you see NBA players raise their defense. Well, we'll take Draymond Green for an example. Okay, Draymond Green was viewed, for the most part, as a mid-level player. He was never considered a superstar. was that effort that he put forth in the championship game that has put him on the map. It was the same way with Iguodala. Iguodala was never viewed as a starter for that matter. Iguodala raised his game in a level of effort. Now again, people are calling him an MVP. I thought that was a huge miss. Anybody that wanted to give Iguodala credit for keeping LeBron James from scoring 50 points instead of 40, in my book, really isn't an MVP. I mean, he served a purpose, yes. He exploited the fact, or made it more evident, that the Cleveland Cavaliers didn't have enough offensive firepower to play with, didn't have enough answers at offense to play with the Golden State Warriors. Had, in my opinion, and this is just an opinion, because again, we can play the what if game all we want, but in my opinion, had LeBron James had both of his stars with him on his team, and LeBron James had more firepower on the offensive side of the ball, it would have negated. And again, everybody started up with the whole legacy thing. Are the Golden State Warriors one of the greatest teams to ever come out of, to ever win a championship? No, I don't think so. No, because at the end of the day, when the stories are written 20 years from now, we sit down and we talk about that particular finals. The reason that they beat the Cleveland Cavaliers is not because they were that much better than the Cleveland Cavaliers. Again, remember, games 1 and 2 go into overtime. Even game 7 at the end of the third quarter, it looked like it may have gone into overtime. At the end of the day, the story of that particular finals is that the Cleveland Cavaliers didn't have enough offensive firepower to match what was on the Golden State Warriors. It was one guy against 4 as far as the offensive side goes. We saw, for the most part, in the first 4 games of that series, where a bunch of ragtag guys for the Cleveland Cavaliers raised their level of play and played outstanding defense. In fact, very much so outplayed what was expected of them. In other words, you've heard the expression overpromise and underdeliver. Well, it was quite the opposite with the Cleveland Cavaliers. As each one of those higher line players began to get hurt and began to be lost for the season, our expectations began to dumb down. And when they provided us with the wonderful finals that they provided us with, the reason for that was because they elevated their effort. So again, I put a ton of stock when you're talking about basketball and defense in effort. Now, you can put guys in the right position to make plays on the defensive side of the basketball court, but most of what made Draymond Green a hot guy at this particular moment, and most of what made Iguodala is not their talent. They're still as talented as they were when they were picked in the middle rounds of the draft when they were drafted. And they are still the same guy that's getting paid middle money on a team, and they're not starting, and they're off the bench guys most of the time. They're still that same guy. But it was that level of intensity and intestinal fortitude and effort and whatnot that has brought them to the forefront and has gotten them the praise that they want. So if it were me, again, and I've got $1 and I've got to spend that $1, and I've got to divide that between offense and defense on the basketball court, I'm going to heavily put my money into the offense as far as players are concerned, and I'm going to heavily put my money into my coach, who I think is ultimately responsible for the mindset of the players and how much effort and how much intensity they come to play with each and every night. The only reason the Pistons aren't playing defense, in my opinion, is because they don't want to. Not because they can't. Again, you mentioned, wasn't it maddening that they didn't guard the arc? Wasn't it maddening?
Yes.
We couldn't guard the arc.
And yes.
That we didn't guard it, correct?
Yes. Yes, it was irritating.
And it wasn't because we couldn't. It wasn't like we had a guy there and he just couldn't get the job done. It was that we just didn't. The guy was wide open. For the most part, when you would see those plays, when you would see that defensive breakdown for the Detroit Pistons, it was two things, in my opinion. One was lack of effort, and two was an ignorance on the coach's part. Because if the same thing keeps happening over and over and over and over again, then the coach must be crazy because he's not getting a different result. If he keeps losing the games the same way over and over and over again, and he makes no adjustment, then he must be crazy. Because he can't keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. That's the definition of insanity.
That's right. He's got to shake things up a bit. He's got to come up with different plans and try to
motivate his team to play defense. Again, defense is a mindset. Defense is a mindset. When the Pistons won their championship and they played the Lakers, it was said and it was written that the Pistons did not stack up with the Lakers as far as talent was concerned. And they were absolutely correct in that assumption. They were absolutely correct in that statement. There was nothing that was wrong about that statement. Now, we know how the finals ended up. Almost being swept by the Pistons. And then we sit back and we ask ourselves, why? Well, the reason that it went the way it went is because the Pistons were hungry and they did play defense out of their mind. But it was an effort situation. Outside of Ben Wallace, there really wasn't anybody on the team that I could say was super athletically gifted. We had Shawne, and he was constantly trying to shoot from the outside.
The ball don't lie.
Right, he didn't like to live in the paint. He always wanted to take that outside shot. You know, you had players that when they went to other teams, when they finally broke up the beloved core for the Detroit Pistons, and they went to other teams, and the philosophy of those teams that they joined was drastically different from where they were on the Pistons. Their game dramatically declined. Outside of Chauncey Billups, I will say Chauncey Billups for
Mr. Big Shot.
When he left Detroit, he was consistent and stayed consistent at the level that he played. Every other team, or every other player from that beloved core, and that includes Ben Wallace. And I'm telling you, that was the biggest mistake. That was the biggest mistake that Detroit ever made, was not re-signing him. All declined whenever they went to another team.
Yeah, and don't forget Richard Rip Hamilton and Tayshaun Prince. Tayshaun Prince is still with the Pistons, as far as we know.
Yeah, there you go. Tayshaun Prince. Tayshaun Prince is known for the Reggie Miller block.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Okay.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Right? And if you had to describe that play in one word, what word would you use?
Just amazingly phenomenal. Like, super athletic.
Okay. The word I would use would be effort. That's what made that particular play for me incredible.
Yep.
That's what made that particular play incredible. Because what made the play incredible is that he's trailing him. He's got 3 steps on him. He's trailing him. Reggie Miller has 3 steps on him. Has a wide open layup, and here he comes with phenomenal effort. That is really what that was all about. Out of nowhere, here he comes, he blocks the shot, and and boom, there it is in history. It was effort. That was what defined that play for me. Not that he was in the right place at the right time or whatever. It's that he came running from out of nowhere behind him when, for all intents and purposes, any other NBA player would have given up on the play and said, okay, I'm not even going to worry about it. I don't need to take a cheap foul. Let him go ahead and get his 2, and we'll take it on to the next play. It was the effort that he put forth that put him in the position to block that shot and leave us with a play that we'll never forget as fans. I need that out of the Pistons. I need a coach that can get his guys to do that for him.
Yep.
Now I'm not ready to blow up the coach either.
No. Stan Van Gundy's a great coach. Has 4 years left on his contract. I would say give him all the rest of his 4 years. I think he and the Pistons will progress. But by the way, that block by Tayshaun Prince and on Reggie Miller actually turned the series around in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Pistons would win in 6 games, and then they would beat the Lakers in 5 games to win the NBA championship. And as most of you Pistons fans may recall, and it was just amazing. The Pistons just went right to work and they took it. That's how championships are earned.
Correct. And I don't, again, this is no indictment against Van Gundy. Van Gundy needs to get his players to play defense. Can Van Gundy get his players to play defense? I don't know. I think the Pistons are leaderless. Who's the Pistons' leader?
I would say Andre Drummond. They might let Greg Monroe walk. They might let Greg Monroe walk.
It's looking like that every day. Every day that goes by, it's looking like Drummond is gone. So yeah, I guess that's what I would agree with you. But I guess it's not a defined leader. It's not as defined. Maybe that's the best thing is for him to move on. For Greg Monroe to move on and let Drummond take the lead. Let Drummond walk in and handle the leadership part. I don't know. I wish they would hurry up and make a decision with this guy. This lingering is really bugging me.
Monroe?
Either offer Monroe max money and make him a Piston, or let him go. But this courtship that we're having, where you're not getting any commitment from either side, I don't think bodes well for the Pistons either. And you know, I think it'd be wrong on Van Gundy's part for him to actually sit back and say, well, we don't want to be hasty either. I don't think you're being hasty. I think the writing's on the wall. Either offer him max money and make him a Piston, or broom it. End of story.
Okay, we got about 5 minutes left. I'm gonna have to wrap it up. Carlos Martinez, it was a pleasure talking with you again on episode 156. do you have a Twitter?
You know, I do, and I'll tell you what. I'll put it up on the site. I'll put it up on your site, so that if anybody wants to follow me on Twitter, I'm going to be quite honest with you. I'm a little old for Twitter. I don't get it. I do go on and I do get some information, but you're not going to get a whole lot out of me on Twitter. You'll more so. I'll be on Taylor's site and whatnot. So if you want to follow anything that I write or any comments that I might have, you'll be more so able to follow me there. I don't do a whole lot on Twitter. I know I should, but I don't.
Oh, okay. Thanks for being honest. But for those who want to follow me on Twitter, they can do that at DT2Phillips. DT, the number 2, Phillips. Thanks again. I will talk to you on episode 157, which would be later this week.
All right, Taylor. It's been a blast as always, dude. Again, thanks for the opportunity, and
yep.
Hope a lot of people listen, man. I love your stuff.
Absolutely. I'll keep sharing this episode for us. Thanks. Let's both share it. And thanks. And that was Carlos Martinez, the co-host for my show, Taylor's Detroit Sports on Spreaker.
Thank you for the call.
And I am Taylor Phillips. You can add Carlos Martinez on Facebook, and you can follow me, Taylor Phillips, on Facebook. But it is time for me to close down episode 156 on Taylor's Detroit Sports on Spreaker. You can also find this and all other episodes of Taylor's Detroit Sports on iHeartRadio. Like my Facebook page, Taylor Phillips' Detroit Sports page. Join my group, Taylor Phillips' Detroit Sports Group, on Facebook. Until next time, TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Well, that about wraps it up for now. Head out.